Amazing. Welcome, folks, to Career Leap. This is Out of Syllabus, a series which we started almost a month back. And what we do at Career Leap is we found this particular problem where most of the skills which are often needed in life to succeed are often not taught to us in schools and colleges and not considered in our syllabus as such. These are primarily known as the soft skills areas around what we do on a day-to-day level and everything around that particular part. And we thought that why not bring folks who are experienced, bring folks who are doing this particular part on their own to share this particular knowledge. So we started this weekend sessions where we discuss about a particular topic around these particular areas. Today's topic is something which is often probably not talked about a lot. I guess a lot of people have written threads, blogs, and whatnot, but in the real sense of applying what exactly it is and something which is being done. There's not something which has been actively practiced by a lot of people. And Himanshu is going to speak about that particular topic, about the first principle thinking. But first, to introduce Himanshu, I guess he's the founder of Sparklin for probably running it for almost past 8 years or so. And right now he's building Openvy, a creative social network for the next generation of folks, and something I've been looking forward to very, very excitingly. And I guess I can see a lot of Openvy and Sparkling folks also here. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit of who Himanshu is and what he does. But I guess he would do a lot more justice to what he does and how he can actually help you around this particular topic. So yeah, Himanshu, do you want to add anything particularly to that particular of your intro?
Not really. I doubt if the intro matters. They will get to know more about me and would want to discover if they find this particular session, helpful. If they don't, sure, then my introduction is of no use.
Right. Interesting. Just give me a second. And yeah, okay. So, Himanshu, jumping right into the into the topic, first principle thinking is something which is often, I guess, it's a term which is being used a lot, but I guess not a lot of folks really know about what it is, how exactly it works and everything. So could you just help us understand on a very primary basis, on a very basic level, that what exactly first principle thinking is?
Sure. Let me try and give you first maybe like a bookish definition. Sure. The idea is to basically go as deep as possible to the foundational constituent of any system that works. That is the bookish definition. An easier way to understand this is typically the kind of things children ask you.
Right.
Okay. So children are born first principle thinkers. They, out of their curiosity, would ask you crazy amount of questions. Yeah. Okay. They would often make you realize that you are not a first principle thinker because you don't know why something works. Right. They would always keep on asking things like why. So why this? Why that?
Yeah.
Why is this important? Why do we need to do this? They are continuously trying to get to that first principle thinking because they're trying to set a foundational base for their knowledge. That's how humans are wired. Unfortunately, as we grow up, as we get educated, we start removing that foundation from our side, and the kind of foundation we start building is more of analogies and things people say.
Right.
And we remove the whole first principle thought process from our minds.
Interesting.
Does that help?
So yeah. So I was actually reading about this, and I've read about a lot about this particular part, and I came across this particular thing that over a period of time, when the small kids ask you questions, after a certain amount of time, it becomes too much for the parents or the teachers and everything, and the casual answer becomes that I told you so, or because I'm saying this particular part, it's supposed to be true and everything around that particular part. I guess there's also another interesting principle, which, or probably a way to do this, is asking your 5 whys, if I'm not wrong, where after asking 5 whys to one particular problem, you actually go to the core level of why something is actually happening or why exactly something is the way it is, right?
Right. We practice the concept of five whys quite a lot when we have to do any kind of design. The idea is to go back to the core to understand why something happens. Why is it important? Why do we need to do this? And so on. That's the whole reason why we have this 5 whys in terms of layers, so that we can easily reach that point of the foundation of something. So, for example, if we have to rethink an internet banking system, we would continuously ask why. Okay. An example is with one of our clients, we literally were sitting in a meeting when we had to ask something as basic as, why is IFSC required for a fund transfer?
Right.
Right. The beauty is that most people won't ask these questions. And when these questions are asked by the kid in you, the adults in the room will suddenly, fall out of their chair, because no one asked so and we never thought so. Right.
Yeah.
That's when we got, mixed answers, that maybe it's an RBI mandate, or maybe, that's how systems are designed. Maybe because, that's how we identify different branches of a bank, which doesn't make sense in digital fund transfer, because the fund transfer is a notional transfer. Right. And that's when a senior identified and said that maybe we should look deep into it. The next thing you know, in a couple of months, IFSC gets removed for 98% of financial transactions on this bank.
Okay.
And not just this bank, because they made it happen, a couple of other banks followed suit. Right. So now you don't have to worry about IFSC for 98% of transactions in all these big banks.
Yeah. Could you probably share another example, which is probably more related towards how you used this particular principle more or less on your personal or daily life? Do you actively pursue this thinking only when you work, or do you actively pursue? There is a general way of thinking however you're thinking.
So most of the people who know me here already know that I don't work. Okay. So whatever I do, I'm doing all the time, which also means that I am thinking and practicing first principles wherever possible, whenever possible. So we just came back from a Europe trip.
Yeah.
A lot of our discussions were basically about first principles being applied in India versus Spain.
Okay.
So why is Indian behavior like this? Why is Indian culture like this? And why is European behavior or Spanish behavior so different? Right. So a lot of our discussions were purely that. A lot of us discovering what to do next on a daily basis is purely us identifying things from first principles.
Interesting. You mentioned there are a couple of questions. One thing which you mentioned was as we grow as adults or as we grow up, we start thinking in the terms of analogies rather than the first principle thinking. I was reading about this one particular example of a coach as to another player, that how exactly a coach or another person would look at a team, or probably as a chef or a cook would go about it. So what's the fundamental difference between using analogies as a thinking way and using first principle as a thinking? What's the basic difference? And probably if you could give maybe a certain example with the part.
Sure. An easier way to think about this is following rules versus setting rules. Okay. So a cook is someone, like you mentioned, who's following rules, and rules in their case, in their industry, is called recipes.
Right. Yes.
Right. A chef is someone who's going to the nuanced version of every food item that exists in their periphery, trying to see what works and what doesn't work together.
Right.
And maybe come up with a newer rule, which to a cook is a recipe.
Right. Yes.
Right. So that is the difference in how first principles help you versus, someone who's just following them. Most of us are typical followers. Most of us don't get the advantage or the kind of privilege to question what is happening in our life on a daily basis, right? Like no one ever questioned that how did we start wearing round collar t-shirts or even collared t-shirts or shirts and so on, right? In fact, there's a very interesting example which is blogged at too many places, which is of a suitcase. Anyone who has this idea of the story of a suitcase?
I'm not sure.
Okay. So since we have had civilization and since we have had the concept of travel thanks to wheels, and since we have had bags, a lot of folks have had leather bags and different kind of pouches or briefcases or suitcases that get thrown on different kind of vehicles using wheels and then made to travel, right? That's how we've transported goods since forever. Right? And crazy amount of innovations have happened in travel suitcases. Okay. So now there's a zip. Now the material has changed and made it waterproof, and all those kind of crazy things have happened. But the first time someone thought of adding a wheel to a suitcase happened in 1970.
Okay.
Okay.
That's a long time back.
Yeah. But if you think from the time, we've been using suitcases, briefcases, pouches, and from the time we've been traveling, which is centuries.
Right.
No one was able to put this two and two together.
Right.
Right. It was in front of us. In hindsight, it seems like, it's so easy, right?
It was obvious. Yeah.
It was so obvious. Yeah. But when you think about it, no one had thought of it. Like, imagine this happened in the time, in fact, a year later than us putting a man on the moon.
Yeah.
So the interesting saying is that we had put man on the moon, and then we realized that we could put wheels on a suitcase.
Wheels on this. Right. Interesting.
Right.
So, so you mentioned that this particular thing, as we grow up as adults, our analogy. So most people start become followers, or they start to abide by these rules rather than creating these particular rules and everything. So before even going into how to practice and all those particular things, where does that subtle cultural change of us going from first principle thinkers as a child to probably to another step where we are becoming an analogy thinking? Is it just our parents or the conditioning that the example which we talked about, or how else generally this whole behavior of us is being shaped that we do not end up becoming, most of us do not end up becoming questioning that those whys and from the first principle thinking?
So I would want to say it's basically parents and parenting. Because the more people you meet who are naturally curious, the more you will realize that their parents and their family used to foster these questions. Okay. These families were not trying to put down the questions or make the kid shut up. Right. In fact, a lot of parenting is the reason why we get a lot of fears in our head. Right. One of the most interesting questions I love to ask in these kind of sessions is if you know which are the two primal fears humans are born with. If you don't mind, I would love to open this up to the folks here and see what people come up with.
Definitely.
Folks who know and know through me, please don't share. Let's see what the rest of you have to think. What are the two primal fears humans are born with? By the way, it's just two, no, not three. Just two primal fears people are born with. Okay, I see someone saying death, uncertainty. Interesting. Darkness. Okay. A bunch of people won't respond because they already know.
Mohit is raising his hand. I guess Mohit is from your team, right? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Meaninglessness of life. Okay. Just 4 answers till now. What are 2 primal fears humans are born with? And it's amazing how people are giving just 1 answer, not 2. Danger. Rinkesh, what's your answer?
I thought of it. Probably death is one particular thing. I'm struggling with probably the second one. I'm getting a lot of abstract answer, but I don't think so. That's a fundamental fear that if there are only 2.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say failure. Failure is one particular thing, which probably results. Yeah, death and failure. I guess is I guess.
Okay. Just to let you all know, we have 1 correct answer in the chat now.
Okay.
If everyone's done, I would love to share what these 2 primal fears are.
I guess. Yeah, I guess you can go ahead.
Okay. One of the primal fears is what Puneet has written, which is loud noises.
Okay.
The other one is height.
Okay, interesting. Why so?
So most of our primal fears are coming from the Stone Age. That particular, DNA that has traveled through time, and if you recall, there were 2 dangers at that point of time. One was loud noises, which could mean anything from fire to lightning to an animal. And second was heights, because in some cases, because of the fear of animals and these kind of external dangers, people would sleep on top of trees or mountains.
Right.
So they don't end up falling from that height, is how that, that whole thing got infused into our DNA. The rest of the things that you have written or not written and have just thought of, including darkness, uncertainty, failure, danger, all these things are brought to your life by your parents and people around you.
Probably something which we have been like man-made fears kind of thing.
Yeah. So maybe think of this as an exercise. Now, when you have, a new kid around your family or, friends, try and notice how you or someone around you is going to introduce these fears in their life.
Right.
Okay. Now, this is one of the great examples how we start losing our first principles, because people around us are introducing these kind of thoughts in our head.
Right.
Okay. So we stop questioning because we are uncertain. We stop questioning because we don't want to fail. We stop questioning because we don't want to sound dumb. Right? And too many of such things. And there's a flip side to this. The more we fear questioning, the more we fear sharing, the more we fear facing who we are and what we want to learn, the more anxious and uncertain we get in our life.
Right. Yes.
Right. And from there on, it's a downward spiral. Okay. In fact, one of the most amazing things about seeking first principle thinking is that it starts at a certain foundation that you know today.
Okay.
The deeper you seek it, the deeper you will unravel the layers. The more you unravel the layers, the deeper first principle thinker you become. So, for example, you are today in a situation where you only know that diamonds exist.
Okay.
Okay. And you have no idea that diamonds and graphite are connected, because they are both eventually made out of carbon.
Yeah.
Okay. The minute you realize that they both are made out of carbon, you will start questioning that how is something made out of carbon having such drastically different properties.
Different things, right?
The minute you question this, you realize there is something called bonds.
Hmm.
The minute you realize there is something called bonds, you have reached a new first principle layer.
Hmm.
Now compare this thought process to you knowing diamonds.
Right.
Just these two additional layers are suddenly making you think so many things that you thought were true, but maybe there is more truth behind it. And what you know today is just a superficial thought.
Superficial, right. So it's basically connecting the dots backward and tracing back what's the origin of something is there on the very root level.
Right. Because there are too many things that we know as truth today. Okay. We call it information. Right. And we keep thinking there is so much to know in this world. We can never know it all.
Right.
But that a lot of things in this world to know is purely information. What we really need to seek, though, is not information, is essentially knowledge, which with our unraveling from first principle thinking will be converted to wisdom.
Right.
Okay. The beauty is that there can't be just way too many principles in the world. There are not. The minute you start exploring, you will realize that, oh, these principles are literally the same.
Same, right. It's just a different way of putting them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Most of the thinkers are actually trying to seek this knowledge and then convert it to wisdom. They're not seeking information because information is Googleable today.
Could you probably talk a little bit about the difference between information and knowledge?
So information is essentially data.
Essentially what? Sorry.
Data.
Okay.
So data is Rinkesh's birthday. Okay. Do I need to memorize Rinkesh's birthday today, especially when I have such crazy databases?
No.
Right. Knowledge could very well be what irks Rinkesh or what is Rinkesh passionate about today. Right. Because your birth date is not going to change.
Yeah.
That data point is going to remain constant throughout. But what's going to change is your passion. So you might be passionate about education today and Web3 tomorrow. Right. Now, my knowledge of Rinkesh's current passion is what differentiates me from everyone else who is happy knowing that Rinkesh's age is so and so, Rinkesh is a man, Rinkesh lives in Bangalore, and all these kind of things.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much known to everyone. The more I seek knowledge about who Rinkesh is as a person, and then get into that first principle thinking mode to see why is Rinkesh like this as a person, my knowledge is slowly getting transformed into wisdom.
Right. Interesting. Okay. On the other note, you mentioned, and I guess a lot of people in general seek out for truth. Okay. Is there a correlation between truth and first principle? Are they somewhere same, or probably how do you see both of these particular things together?
Actually, they are dynamically opposite.
Okay.
So truth is your analogy.
Oh, how so?
So truth is the version you believe in. Okay. Truth is not really something that is a fact or not a fact known by most people. Okay. I think I shared this as a tweet sometime back. So imagine a 6 written and then rotated 90 degrees. Okay. Now this is the kind of character you are looking at. Right? What's your truth? Is it 6 or is it 9?
It is 9 to me right now.
How is it 9 to you?
If it's rotated
90 degree. So
okay,
it's
90
basic.
degree. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
90
Okay.
degree, not
Okay.
180 degrees.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So then it becomes very subjective from where you are looking.
That's life.
Right.
That's analogy.
So
that's
yeah.
truth.
So truth is basically something which is subjective and not objective. If I have to put it, facts
Absolutely.
are something which is objective and truth is something which is subjective.
Yeah.
Okay. So when we say about first principle things, there's something which is on the objective level rather than something subjective level. So whomsoever seeks out a first principle thinking for one particular thing, it will always boil down to that one single same thing rather than leading to different answers, right?
Absolutely. The more you delve deeper, the more you realize that most of the things are working with just these few principles.
Okay. Interesting. So coming back to the whole part of the adult being this particular place, and for most of the folks, we're past that particular phase, and I guess it's very safe to say at certain level that most of us, probably excluding you, are probably into that followers list of that particular part where we either struggle to think from the first principle thinking, or probably we do not look onto that particular part. So how does one now start shaping up, since we have this set form of thinking at this particular point of time? Is it just reasoning that okay, you start keep questioning everything from the why, or is there any particular other ways to unravel? Because it sounds a lot more easier that okay, you can just keep asking why and start digging deep down and everything. But I guess it's in practice, it's a lot more harder to do this on a daily basis, apply it and put it. So how do you see this particular thing?
I think it's more about understanding where is this knowledge or wisdom coming from. Can we try and understand things like, how do I know if this is true? Right? Or how would things be if this happens to be wrong? Or things like, what exactly is making me think like this? I know these are not the kind of questions we ask too commonly, right? But that's the point. We don't ask these kind of questions too commonly because we are happy being in this notional world where I'm bound to believe something just because Rinkesh said so. Right. And I don't want to put that effort.
Yes.
In knowing why is Rinkesh saying so. Okay. Because like I was telling you about, there are some basic principles which are guiding all of us. The same way there are basic principles that guide human behavior, which is what we use in UX quite a lot, right? So we know for a fact that humans love and get attracted towards convenience and comfort. So it's comfortable, it's convenient to just believe the people you believe in. And that's how we become ignorant.
Interesting. Okay. So how do you figure out something is on the first principle level or second order level thinking or third order? Like if you're probably at a stage of probably evaluating a particular thought or an idea or any particular thing, how do you navigate? Like we have understood that okay, you need to keep digging, but what's that digging process? How do you do that particular part?
So one, of course, is to dig deeper and unravel most of the things. The other quicker way is to figure out if what we know today is an effect or a cause.
Okay.
So when Rinkesh told me something, was it an effect of something? If the answer is yes, I don't know the effect or what caused that effect. But if the answer is yes, then what Rinkesh is, basically saying might not be a fact.
Right.
Okay. So understanding the cause effect principle And questioning it over and over again makes you basically delve deeper. And your first principle knowledge versus my first principle knowledge could be very different.
Very different. Okay.
Again, you know diamond today, or you know covalent bonds today.
Right.
The more you dig deeper, your first principle kind of, keeps going deeper.
But you said a lot of things to us available is information and not knowledge, right? Which is data, right? And let's say, again, there is a very top level thing that when someone wants to dig deeper, the very first thing that would do is either I talk to some people or probably I'll Google it, right?
Sure. Right.
I'm not really sure that's the right approach or not. Okay, in a certain way, and it may work for certain problems. It may not work for the certain part. So, does digging, like, is this the way how one should probably go forward, or how does that particular thing vary from problem to problem?
So I can share what I do. I don't think I have a perfect answer to this. Every time I want to seek information, I go to Google. Every time I want to seek knowledge, I go back to books and people.
Okay.
There's a very simple reason for it. Do you understand the known unknown matrix?
No.
Okay, so imagine 4 squares adjacent to each other. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. The top most, because you're writing known, known, unknown, unknown.
Okay. Right? Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So now the first one automatically becomes the known, known.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that I know something about first principles is my known, known.
Right.
The bottom one becomes known, unknown.
Unknown. Yeah.
Okay. Which means that I know that I do not know too much about the planet Jupiter.
Right.
This particular column is the only thing Google can help you with. Things you know and things you know you don't know.
Yeah. So you can probably look out for what you probably do not know about. So you can ask things about that particular thing and get the information about it.
Yeah, because you know what you don't know. You have identified what you don't know. Right. That's what Google can help you with. You can't go to Google and start exploring without writing a keyword, right?
Right.
It's not a library.
Yeah.
Where you can pick a random book, open a random page, and you will suddenly stumble upon a new kind of, information or knowledge, which you didn't even think existed. Right? Then the next column is unknown knowns and unknown unknowns.
Right.
Things you don't know, you know. Okay. That you can only unravel when you're reading a random book or talking to a random person.
Right. I guess if I guess is this the place where most of our unlearnings happen?
Absolutely. That's where most of your serendipity causes you to unlearn.
Right. That aha
so in
moment
fact, one of our principles of creating Openvy is this column. Can we introduce serendipity in your social life?
Right. Okay. And what happens in that last matrix, in that last quadrant?
Which is the unknown.
Unknown.
Imagine things you don't even know exist in this world. Okay. So things which are only particularly talked about, let's say, in a certain language. Because a language is essentially a rule.
Right. Yes.
Right. And the rules are written by humans. So someone writing Mandarin as a rule might think very differently as someone writing English as a rule.
Yeah.
Right. So, for example, Japanese has words, a single word for things that remind you of rain. There is no such a word for English. Right?
Yeah.
Or when you feel happy, when someone else loses, there's no word for it.
Right.
In English. But it's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
That feeling gets contextualized the minute you realize this feeling exists, especially because of a word that exists in a certain language.
Right. So, okay. So if I have to probably put it in a better way, if happy would have never been a word actually, I would have never been able to materialize the feeling which I'm having. Is that what you're speaking?
So for example, the opposite of first principle thinking today, especially, is people seeking happiness.
Right. So I'm basically seeking that emotion or that feeling, and I'm attaching to that particular word, which
because
is probably, you could say that
it's in your
an
known
analogy.
column, and
Right.
it's not just in your known column, it's in your popularly known column.
Right.
Everyone around you is talking about it, is seeking it. So you naturally want to seek it. Right. No one is seeking excitement. No one is seeking passion. No one is seeking discovery. Right. Because that is in your unknowns.
So the passion thing which you talked about, is this the same passion which we talked about, which is often talked about, or is this something else? Like you mentioned that it's something which falls on the unknown part. Like we do often tell that figuring out our passion and stuff like that. So is this the same thing?
It's the same thing with a deeper meaning. So most of the things we know as passion is literally like what we call hobby. Right. Passion on the other side, like Urdu has a great word called junoon. So junoon essentially means you will get nothing in return.
Right. It's something which moves you, and you will probably dedicate very, very very wholesomely.
And without getting anything in return.
Yeah. You do not have any particular expectation out of it, but
Absolutely.
you do it with your whole heart and soul.
Yeah. Imagine that as a culture.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So another thing about this matrix would be different for every individual, right? Like you mentioned about this Mandarin thing and English thing. For the Mandarin guy, the language would be probably in the known section, but for the English guy, it would be in the unknown, right?
Right.
Okay. You mentioned if you have to think from the first principle thinking, you look for books and people. At some level, I can understand with the people part. With books, don't you think so? Books is also probably a collective part of what we call as information, or it's the other way thing?
It's actually dynamically the other way. See, books have something called longevity infused into them. Okay. So imagine a book which was written in 1700s.
Right.
There's a great chance it's not popular today.
Yeah.
If it's not popular today, most of us don't know about the information that is written there, but that information is literally knowledge
today. Right.
Okay. No one is seeking it. So it's not in my known matrix. So the minute I stumble upon it and start reading it and can imagine the difference, the comparison between 1700s and the 2000s, just that comparison is going to, shake my brain. Right. The minute it shakes my brain, that slowly transforms into wisdom. That cannot happen if everyone's talking about atomic habits. If everyone's reading Atomic Habits, it's not knowledge, it's information.
Right. I guess that's the popular thing. Now, if you're reading what everyone are reading, you're basically thinking what everyone are thinking, or probably doing the same
that's
thing.
That's schooling, right? Think about it.
Yeah. That's actually schooling. Yeah. Okay.
So Devashish is saying, is it similar to Lindy ideas? Yeah, Devashish. Longevity is the concept of Lindy. The difference here is that with Lindy, things that get more read become more popular and get read all the more. Atomic Habits.
Right. It's popularly known as Lindy effect, right?
The Lindy effect.
Yeah.
But longevity is actually where something will continue to make sense in the future.
It's like the evergreen content or the evergreen things.
Yeah, it's the opposite of trending things.
Right. Okay.
Right? which is again the foundation of most social networks today. Right.
Yes.
Another thing we wanted to do with Openvy is to introduce the concept of longevity in Lindy into the social paradigm.
Right. Yes. Okay. Vishal has a question. He asked that, so knowledge is the information which most people do not know.
Yes. Knowledge is the information that most people do not know, and infusing it with knowledge of someone else will convert it into wisdom for you.
Right.
Okay. Another way of understanding knowledge is that knowledge is different perspectives coming from different sides. Information is going to remain true.
Same.
Right. Yeah. So Rinkesh's birthday is going to remain the same whether I ask Vishal or I ask Devashish, unless Rinkesh is giving different information to different people.
Right.
Don't do that, Rinkesh. It's illegal.
Okay. So coming to this particular part where you mentioned you use books and people, could you probably go deeper that how do you use that? You mentioned that going probably using that particular book, reading one particular chapter or something like that. How do you probably go about that? But one thing which I guess most people struggle is that they know probably they could get more perspective or more answers or more things, the exploration part of this knowledge thing from books. But the second part, which basically happens, is what you do with that information when you start applying this whole framework of first principle. So one thing is knowing you have to use books and people, but second thing is actually doing it. So how do you go about that?
So the part where I was saying that it has to be converted to wisdom, that is missed in most of the cases. Right. Okay. And again, it's not something that I particularly do. So imagine why, a place like Stanford ends up producing crazy, amazing people. Or why does Harvard do it? Okay. I mean, I don't know what's your reason of how Stanford and Harvard are doing it, but I will give you 3 reasons on why it works. Okay. And you can practically apply these 3 reasons to your life and you will become a better first principle thinker.
Okay.
First thing, Stanford and Harvard are going to check through all the applications and references you get is how likely is this guy going to do something amazing in his life. They literally check for that.
Okay.
Example, if tomorrow Sonia Gandhi's son applies for Stanford, higher chance than me getting in.
Right.
Chances of Sonia Gandhi's son becoming prime minister of a country is way higher than Himanshu Khanna.
Right. Yes.
Right. So that's the first way they think. The Stanfords and the Harvards of the world.
Is there a reason why do they think that particular way? Is there any particular advantage or way of that particular way?
That's latching to your future marketing.
Okay. So how big you can become, that becomes a lot more better for the brand and the whole.
Yeah, because think about it. Why are they successful? I can easily say because they went to Stanford.
Right.
Because I'm not a first principle thinker.
Yeah.
Which most people are not.
Right.
So someone's successful because they went to Stanford or they dropped out of Harvard. So think about it. Most of the crazy, amazing technologies we use today are created by Harvard dropouts.
Yeah.
That in itself is a brand. You need to go to Harvard, get in, and then drop out.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's first, how they choose. Second, they particularly make sure that they infuse people from different cultures, which means different languages. Right? This automatically triggers your first principle brain. Imagine spending time with someone who understands Mandarin, another person who understands Japanese, someone who is Spanish speaker,
right,
and someone who comes all the way from Russia. the kind of ideas, the kind of thoughts, the kind of words, the kind of background historical information they will come from. And the minute that information hits your brain, it's going to trigger newer things.
Right. Yes.
Right. That in a very small way is what happens when you travel.
Yes.
Okay.
When you start meeting new other folks.
When you meet newer people and you kind of observe their behavior, you start questioning why are they like this and not us?
Yeah.
Right. Like, how is that people from Japan are more likely to say thank you, or people from Europe are more likely to smile at you?
Right.
Okay. Smile at you, not, laugh at you. Smile at you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Like people in India will laugh at you.
Yeah.
You will become the joke.
Yeah.
Right. So how does that happen? When your brain thinks that, how does that happen? Your brain is automatically trying to reach that first principle. Okay. And the third thing places like Stanford and Harvard do, they throw you into difficult situations. Okay. Because the minute I throw you into difficult situations, you have to figure things out.
Right.
In figuring things out, things people say, Hindi mein there's this very interesting thing, log bolte hain. Right? The things people say does not matter. Right? When you are in a complicated situation, whatever you have known all your life from people and their analogies is not going to help. You will have to get down to basics. Right. Getting down to basics is first principle thinking.
Yes. And I guess the layer of having different perspective from that diverse group adds to that particular part very well.
Absolutely.
Part of that, right?
Right.
Interesting.
Right. Like, so, I don't know how many times you all question these kind of things. Like, is anyone here from Rajasthan? Apart from one person I know.
Anyone? Not sure.
Okay. The answer is no. Okay. Now, do you know that Rajasthani food is typically very spicy?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, since childhood, we have known that Rajasthan is a hot region.
Yeah.
So why would a hot region culturally have spicy food? Have you ever questioned that?
Is it? I guess. Is it because of how the water is there?
I'm not seeking an answer. I am seeking whether you have questioned that ever.
Right. I guess I've did that. I've asked a Rajasthani friend.
So this is the unknown I'm talking about. It's in front of you, but you've never wondered about it. And that's why you don't know about it. Right? The minute someone like me questions this, your brain automatically starts thinking, oh, wow, ye to socha nahi tha. Right? And now you're more likely to find an answer to this. Because if you don't, either you will have to ignore or it will keep itching you.
Right.
That itch is why people discover newer things.
This itch is something which we quantify or probably label as curiosity, right?
Absolutely.
Right.
The idea is to be around people who keep giving you these itches. And not give you the ointment to put onto it.
Right. And what you said as converting this itch and what you gain out of it as a wisdom or an insight is probably the end thing which you get out of it, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Okay. So I have one more question around this. Is there are a lot of things there's probably everything you can apply first principle thinking to. This particular thing about the Rajasthani food being spicy. One could argue that yes, I did apply first principle thinking and everything, but is this any helpful to me, or is this any particular part? I do know that you gave it an example, but does this make sense to start applying or just start questioning everything at certain level, or how do you differentiate around this particular part?
So the answer to the first question is yes. Apply it to anything and everything in your life. And even though the first few months might seem like extremely daunting and complicated, if you do it well and you keep doing it, there is almost no chance that you will ever be sad.
Okay.
Okay, so imagine this can counter loneliness, sadness, and all synonyms you can think of. Because once you start practicing this, it becomes your habit to figure out why is this happening.
Right.
Instead of delving on why is it happening to me.
Right.
Right.
So if I have to say, the secret to not being sad is thinking from first principles.
Absolutely, it is.
Okay.
In fact, a lot of innovation of this world, the evolution of this world, is driven by first principle thinking. Right. The other day, I think you only had tweeted about this startup which is creating flying cars.
Okay.
But we have had flying cars for more than a century. Why is that such a big thing?
Right.
They're just called airplanes.
Yeah.
They just don't look like cars.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
What else is the difference? Other than the form, is there anything different about it?
Nope.
Right? Or imagine a time when in 2006, they are supposed to unveil the first touch-friendly smartphone called iPhone. Okay, like today, we can't even imagine the kind of problems they would have faced. I can share one problem with you, which is before this, they were all tactile keyboards.
Right, yes.
Right? Now, when you press your hand, it's not a pointed edge that gets pressed on the screen.
Yeah.
Right? Which was possible beforehand when you had, those kind of palm kind of devices. Because then you're using this pointed stick to point on the touch screen. Right? But when Steve Jobs is saying that you have the best one with you, which is your finger, right? How do you do that? Because you can't fit so many buttons all together and not end up pressing the wrong button.
Right, yes.
Right? For almost a year, all the engineers, designers, thinkers of Apple were trying to figure out how to make a keyboard which is touch friendly.
Right.
Right? Again, does anyone know the solution they came up with?
Not sure.
Okay, Puneet knows. Puneet, you know? Okay, good. He knows. You want to tell them? I think they've heard my voice too much, so might as well tell them. Puneet, you're on mute.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they used a kind of AI, which detects the surround. I mean, if we touch something, then it will detect the surrounding area of that, the thing that we are touching, like the key.
Okay. Is this something like the assistive touch which is there in the mobile phones today? Something similar
so
like that?
It actually goes a little beyond that. So if you press, let's say T,
right,
the AI will make the touch area of T larger.
Okay.
And then go on to predicting what could be the next alphabet you are likely to press. So the next alphabet in most cases is going to be H, because the three, them, they, all that, right? Like imagine the dictionary quickly getting checked. What could be the next alphabet?
Right. Yeah.
Right? Now, because of this, the surface area, which is not visible, but the touch-friendly surface area of H is automatically bigger in your phone. So when you press, you don't press the wrong key.
Right.
They went one step ahead. Even if you end up doing this, pressing the wrong key, they will show you autocorrect options because they already have dictionary inbuilt.
Right.
All this is what? This is first principle thinking.
So was this thing implemented?
This is the implementation we have had since forever in iPhone. They never talk about the AI part of it because that's not what Apple is.
Okay. Now I can probably...
It's not Microsoft. Microsoft or Google would have told you, we have come up with the best AI in the world. Look at this. Apple came and said, see, it works.
Right.
And it works in a very cool way. That's it.
Right. Makes sense. Yes. Interesting. Okay. Probably one last question on my end. Probably then I'll open the floor to everyone else. I guess it's almost been an hour we have been talking about this. Is that a lot of folks who have been here and in general have now got a gist of what first principle is, and you have given a brief about an idea that when you're thinking about when you want to think about first principles, you do it via books and peoples and everything. A lot of folks will go read about an article or watch a podcast and everything. But again, circling back to the same question, if there is a action list of how one can get started with thinking about first principle from today onwards, with all the layers of thinking they have today, how would they rewire their thinking today in a sense?
I would say start following and reading people who question things you think you know. And who are not just giving you, thumb rules or shortcuts. You will automatically be drawn to people who give you shortcuts because convenience, comfort.
Right. Yes.
Be drawn to people who are knowingly complicating your life with these questions and making you think. Okay. Like, for example, the first time I thought or I read about this whole concept of not practicing enough for the hardest decisions of your life, I was zonked. Okay. I'll show you this entire thing to you in a minute. Now imagine there is this spectrum. Okay. This side of things are things you get to do almost daily in your life, maybe multiple times a day in your life. Okay, this side of things are things you'll probably do once in your life, not more, maybe once or twice. Okay, so this side of things are things like, what do you want to eat for dinner? Okay, because you have dinner, lunch, breakfast, so many decisions, right? What do you want to wear today to office or to this particular session? Right. Imagine the amount of practice you get for this. Right? Then slowly move towards this spectrum. Where do you want to go on a holiday this quarter? Okay. Or little here, what do I do this weekend? Right? Now this particular extreme is, who do I marry? Hopefully एक ही बार करोगे. Right? What career path do I choose? Like 18 बार तो नहीं choose कर सकते ना career path.
Yeah.
2-3 ही करोगे. Which house to buy? Which country
probably
to live in?
All the major decisions which you take in your life.
Yeah, maybe once or twice at max. Right.
Yeah.
Now imagine the amount of chances you get to practice this decision.
Yeah, the number of frequencies is something which you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, but are they important? Let's say you get your dinner wrong.
Right.
Or you wear a kurta to a black dress party.
Right.
Like, what kind of implications will you face?
Rather, you'll get cancelled out and probably get lashed out.
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Imagine you marry the wrong person.
The consequences are a lot more bigger.
Imagine you buy a house which is already owned on paper by 7 other people, but you didn't know.
Right.
Practice का कितना time मिला?
Yeah, you probably get to do it once only.
Have you ever thought about this spectrum before I showed it to you, made you imagine this?
I've probably not looked at this thing as this way, honestly.
That's the kind of people and the kind of readings you're supposed to do. People who make you introduced to these complicated thoughts that might never occur to you.
Right. So you said that these are the major decisions, and as you probably go from this end of the spectrum to this end, the frequency probably decreases over for each of these tasks. Okay. So if these at this end of the spectrum are the most important task, and we know this, that we're gonna get to do this one time only, and there's only one time we can practice it. So how does one basically make sure that he does it the right way? Basically, again, how it's the whole part of how does one apply first principle thinking at this particular place? It will not be that you'll suddenly stumble upon that and just apply the first principle thinking from here itself. You have to do it.
Do what Stanford does.
Okay.
I figured. I'm saying do what Stanford does.
Right.
Select people and things very carefully. Mingle with people that come from different races and cultures and different languages.
Right.
And third, be thrown into complicated situations. Basically, learn from others, but not too many, because then it becomes information.
Right.
So you just don't need multiple people. You need variety of learnings coming at you, so that you get multiple perspectives of things coming to you. And then you can pick and choose what makes sense to you today, and be open to make, something else making sense to you tomorrow.
And I guess this group of people, or probably group of books, or probably anything which you refer for that, will change from time to time, and the thing which you are probably trying to solve for also, right?
Absolutely.
So you can have multiple number of groups in a limited format for different number of things you want to do.
Yeah, that's called Openvy.
Right. Interesting. Okay, so I just gonna open the floor for everyone else who wanna speak up. Just let me know if you wanna speak up, or probably just put up in the chat. Okay, Himanshu would be willing to answer any of the questions if you have. Devashish has written, I think it's the same reason why Zuckerberg wears the same tee for the trivial thing.
Yeah, the idea is to not waste your decision-making energy on something so trivial.
Right. Okay. Anything else, folks? Anyone have any particular question or thoughts to share? Anything?
I think the answer is no.
I guess it's been too much for most of the folks. Cool. I guess. Okay. So anything? Okay. We have one part. Is philosophy and first principles correlated?
Correlated, yes, Devashish, but not exactly the same thing. Philosophy is romanticizing different perspectives. Figuring out what's your own fundamentals today. What are you driven by? That's philosophy, right? And the deeper I think about something, the more I can philosophize about it. First principles remain the same no matter what, right? If you keep digging deeper, you will find the roots. Right? In philosophy, if you dig deeper, you're not just digging deeper, you could be going in any direction.
Right.
Philosophy is a lot of imagination, if you think about it. First principle is very less of imagination, but a lot of uncomfortable unraveling.
Right. Okay. I have one question on my end. Is there a particular way where I guess a majority, it's probably very safe to say that a majority of people do not practice first principle thinking on a day-to-day basis, or probably on a throughout their lifetime at a certain level, but they do end up probably being successful. Again, being successful is probably a subjective term in that particular part. So one could probably very much argue that, okay, yaar, ye to bahut zyada effort hai. There's too much of things to do around this particular part. So how do you one counter that, and what probably level of impact one probably could create? ऐसा तो नहीं होगा यार कि when you start thinking from first principle, you'll probably become the next Elon Musk. It could very well happen, but
you could.
You could happen, but again, it's not something as a magic wonder which will happen. It's just something which will take gradual amount of time and everything. So how do you see that particular part then?
So you might not end up becoming Elon Musk, but you could very well end up becoming a J.K. Rowling or a Tolkien or a Christopher Nolan, because all the so-called, and I don't want to use the word, but as we say, successful people are following two core paths. One path is dead and beaten, which is full of shortcuts and thumb rules and all those kind of things, right? Which also means that the success is going to be repeated, might get lower in terms of impact, but it's going to be successful. Right? Impact might be lowered. And the other path are folks who are first principle thinkers like J.K. Rowling or Christopher Nolan or Elon Musk, who want to introduce newer things to the world so that the world can evolve. For them, that's success. That evolutionary impact is success for them. That is only possible when you're thinking from first principle.
Okay. Interesting. I guess I've finished probably my set of questions, at least on. Puneet has, how would you use first principle if you want to understand why alcohol is addictive or why people use Facebook, even when they know problems that are associated with using it?
I think it boils down to the same concept that I told you about human behavior, convenience and comfort, right? People get drawn to things which are addictive, like alcohol, because they allow them to lose control. Right? When you lose control, you do not blame yourself. Right? Which is extremely comforting. Right? An easier way to get rid of pain is to have a medicine that numbs you.
Right.
And not look at why the pain is happening. Right? All the addictive things in life make that happen for you. Right? Facebook is literally doing the same thing. It's giving you that crazy amount of dopamine hits, which is addictive and makes you feel pseudo successful, pseudo popular, pseudo famous. Right. You're sitting in the comfort of your own home in that closed space, and you think you're connected to the entire world. Right. That convenience and comfort will always take over a subconscious human mind. The problem is that it's mostly subconscious human mind, not a conscious human mind.
Yeah. Okay. I have another follow-up question to this, but I'll take up Mayank's question first. Are there any communities we can join to be part of people who question this? Okay. Maybe Reddit, or you're probably aware about anything else. Basically, how do you find these people?
I think you can find them on Reddit or different kind of Discord servers or Twitter. Like, for example, we started something last year called Creative Folks, which is literally this, idiotic people questioning idiotic things in their life, and someone coming up with some really intelligent answers. The reason we are starting something as ambitious as Openvy is to be able to create communities of such communities, which are able to just kind of, do this, intellectual discussion and brainstorming on why things are. Now that could be about sports, that could be about movies, that could be about Web3, that could be about technology, that could be, questioning that after we put a man on moon, what happened? It's been 50 years. What did we do?
Yeah.
Right. So you'll have to dig through. The idea is to not go where everyone else is going. If you end up being where everyone else is, you will only get information and not knowledge, which can be converted to wisdom.
Okay. Right. Makes sense. The follow-up question which I had was, like Puneet mentioned, and about the Facebook thing. I guess that applies to very general part of how social media works on comfort and what was the other word? Sorry, I forgot. Convenience. Yeah, sorry. Comfort and convenience. Okay. Since you're building probably Openvy right now, okay, which is again a social network around that particular part, and like you said, you've been building Openvy from the first principle thinking. I don't think so. You can rewire the whole way of how humans will think. They will still seek for that comfort and convenience at every level of their life, right? Irrespective of that. So how do you think so, at least from the first principle thinking, the fundamental difference of how today's social media works and how something like Openvy would work, given it gives you the same comfort and convenience at a certain level?
Okay, let me give you an easy answer, which is basically an analogy. So there are two kinds of games one can create. Okay. One are easy and dumb games, which is like Candy Crush. Right? Like hit, something will happen.
Yeah.
Right? The other are strategy games like Monopoly, Catan, and so on, where you have to think. Right? The social paradigm that exists today is Candy Crush.
Yeah.
We are trying to build a Catan. We are trying to build a Monopoly. We are trying to build a Dota. Okay.
Right.
So the principles of gaming apply, which is what people seek, but eventually it's only for people who want to use their brain.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So if I have to say it this way, Facebook or all the other social media, something which are for massy people, just like Candy Crush and stuff like that. But Openvy or probably the strategic games are something which are for very limited niche people who are actually towards that kind of thinking and ways of using their knowledge and wisdom. Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, amazing. Any particular last thoughts, Himanshu, on your end? Something which I missed out asking you, probably we missed out discussing around here, which you think might be relevant?
Sure. I got to know this concept very recently. It was funny how it relates to Openvy and what we are building there. I would want to introduce that concept to all of you and hope that you end up making more of such things happen. There is this concept called genius.
Sorry,
Genius.
Okay.
Genius is basically a scene of geniuses put together. Basically, a group of genius coming together.
Okay.
The more of such genius, when they exist, they come up with crazy, amazing things.
Right.
Okay. I'll give you a couple of examples to make it easy for you. So, for example, Tolkien and Lewis, two of the world's greatest authors, being part of the same book club and coming up with stories like Narnia and Lord of the Rings and all of that is a genius. They both come from the same book club. They exchanged notes. They thrashed each other. They brainstormed together. They told each other that this is stupid. Don't do that. Right? They were all together. Silicon Valley is a genius.
Right.
Most of the technology you and I use today is literally Silicon Valley. Right? There is nothing else crazy, amazing about Silicon Valley, but all these geniuses being part of the same space. And I don't mean physical space. Right? It's the same space. Y Combinator is a genius. The Florence of Leonardo da Vinci's era was a genius, which was producing crazy amount of thinkers, philosophers, innovators, right? Only because they were together. They were these people who were questioning the complicated things. They were writing these complicated things, right? Can you all figure out and start creating multiple genius for yourself?
Can we say that like things probably places like Harvard's and other where
genius.
Also these right?
Genius. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. Devashi is asking, is it similar to agglomerate economy, right?
I don't know what is agglomerate economy. See, unknown.
Right. Probably Devashi, if you know, you can put down. Or probably...
Yeah. Now I can connect with Devashi just because of this. He introduced me to something I didn't know.
Right. Okay. Cool. Anything else, Himanshu, wanna share, talk, or have anything else to share with us around this?
I would say that please start asking more questions, and be as upfront and public about these questions as possible, because you never know who has the answer. Shying away from asking questions and asking these questions privately is not going to help you, not going to help me, not going to help anyone.
Right.
Fail in public. I'm not saying build in public, fail in public.
Right. Ask more wise, right? If I have
Absolutely.
to. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Amazing. Okay, Devashish. It's the idea that New York is the way it is not due to Wall Street or something, but like-minded people came together and then built New York. Okay.
So I think the idea is that that New York is not the financial capital of USA because of certain weather conditions.
Or the geographical
but just because
location.
or just geographical location. It's just because more people who thought like that chose it.
Right. It's basically like why Silicon Valley is Silicon Valley, because people are basically that's the hub of those kinds of people who are basically working there.
Okay. Yuvraj is genius instead of G is S. Genius. Okay. So so think from that angle. Yeah, sorry. Rinkesh, you were asking something?
No, I was just saying that it's very similar to how Silicon Valley is thought of as a group. It's not particular to one location, but it's basically a group of people working there.
Absolutely. And I think more and more of future seniors and these kind of communities and these kind of amazing economies are going to be built on this new country called Internet. Right. We will ditch all physical spaces. Physical spaces will be only for recreation.
Are you not? I hope you're not talking about metaverse.
No, I'm not. Hopefully not.
Cool. Okay, great. Anyone else have any particular other questions? Any thoughts to share or anything else? You said that you started a community, Crazy Folks. So is that? It's not. It's creative.
It's
people,
creative
right?
folks. It's creative folks. Or it's a WhatsApp group. We have some 100+ people there.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else have any other particular questions? Have any other particular part? Himanshu, do you?
Yeah.
I hope we're not taking too much time. Just wind up probably in last 5 minutes. Is there any particular book which you recommend? Not just probably maybe on first principle things, but something which probably is not that popular, but you found it very interesting, which everyone others could read.
Yeah, actually, quite a lot of them. Loon Shots is one of such book, which I believe is not too popular, but can make you think of crazy things you didn't know of.
Okay.
Or another one from human behavior angle is I'm forgetting the name. Mohit, what's that book from Rory Sutherland? Alchemy.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Are they available on Amazon?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So we have this thing here at the end of the session that we probably want people to probably jot down their thinkings and what they have learned and everything, which probably makes it much more apparent to them. So yeah, folks, at the end of the session, if you probably could write down probably either a post, a blog, a thread, anything in any form, about what you have learned from Himanshu and from this particular session. Might shoot you up that particular book, Loon Shots, or probably Alchemy to you as a gift for that. Okay. So yeah, feel free to put it out on any of the social media in any form. Tag Himanshu and probably us, and we'll be kind enough to gift you one of those copies. Okay, but yeah, on the ending note, thank you so much, Himanshu, for joining this, for doing this. Okay, it's been always crazy to talk to you. We have not done this. Probably this is the first time we have been doing this kind of an interaction, but absolutely love this particular part. I hope you enjoyed this particular part and hope your Sunday was probably a lot more interesting.
I love talking about this topic and having these kind of interactions. And since you said thank you, I'm going to say de nada.
Great.
That's the latest Spanish word we all learned in our trip. De nada basically means mention not.
Okay. Benada, if I'm...
De nada.
Okay, de nada. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yuvraj is asking if he can be part of that particular group. The WhatsApp group is there.
If you know them, I'll add them, Rinkesh. you are already
Sure
part
thing.
of that group.
Okay. If anyone wanna be a part of it, just ping me. I'll probably consult with Himanshu and see if we can get more folks in. Okay, but yeah, on the closing note, again, Himanshu, thank you so much for doing this, and everyone else who have stuck for almost 90 minutes on Sunday evening. Okay, for this particular thing, I hope you take away a lot of things. Probably start thinking from first principles and everything. And yeah, I hope to see you in another sessions and everything. Thank you so much. Himanshu, anything on the closing note?
Yeah, just keep asking questions here as much as possible, and please talk about Openvy wherever you can.
Sure thing. Great. Okay. Amazing, folks. Bye-bye. Have a great evening. Okay. And hope you have a great weekend.
Bye-bye. Take care. Good night. Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.